What's up? This your man Dre Mack, and on today's episode, I'm going to give you the highlights of everything that happened day 6 of the Jonathan Majors trial. This gets crazy, and I know y'all want to dive into it, but the real question is, alright, so for day 6 of the Jonathan Majors trial, I'm not going to lie to you, there's a lot of crickets around there. Because this time it's the defense that's cross-referencing, Stephanie McMahon Helmsley about what happened that night. Now, it was a lot that went on. So when I give you these highlights, it may jump around a little bit, but trust me, it's all worth it. Because there's a strategy here, and I'm going to tell you about that later. But let's dive into it. Let's go. And again, this information comes from Danny Does Law in Policy and Practice. So this is who I be getting my information from. Make sure that you follow her on Facebook. Make sure that you follow her on Twitter. Now, let's get into the cross-examination. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley has begun, and thus far, she appears frazzled, confused, conveniently forgetful. One example is she claims she didn't remember what time they left for the play at BAM when she stated it was around 6:30 on direct examination. Update. So far, it seems like the defense strategy is to unweave a lot of the inconsistent statements McMahon Helmsley made regarding how much she drinks, hinting at alcoholism, text message between she and her friend that seems to indicate she faked being unconscious in the closet when Jonathan found her. The strong possibility that she caused her own ear injury based on photographic evidence. Whether or not the DA cut her a deal to not be prosecuted for her arrest in exchange for her testimony. Whether or not the DA is paying for her and her friend's expenses. Pretending not to know until June that she needed to turn herself in. Pretending she didn't recognize certain photos of Jonathan's injuries. Recording Jonathan without his knowledge or permission. Questionable reimbursements request McMahon Helmsley made for $750 in clothing that was never damaged and $200 in toiletries. Her stealing the iPhone Jonathan asked her to return. She testifies to still having it. Questions surrounding whether or not the DA offered her help with a work visa. Probra also tipped her on exaggeration on how she was pushed back into the Escalade despite all of us seeing it. This all seems to be pointing at the possible lack of credibility and dishonesty issues. Now, let me just dive into some of the things that we just heard that kind of give me complete red flags of what's going on. Number one, text messaging that was between her and her friend that seemed to indicate that she actually faked being unconscious when she was found by Bookman and Jonathan Majors. Now, this will cause me to throw out everything that she said. Because remember, we all was suspecting that she, was unconscious. He was, doing this as a concern because he was concerned for her well-being, which he should be. And for her to find out that, and I want you guys to check out a few videos that I'm going to give you at the end of this. There's going to point way more information that I have that Dr. Hines and Danny had is going to be at the end of this video. So make sure you click on that. But it was said by Danny, who was in the courtroom that day, that it was 13 minutes between the time that Stephanie and her friend was texting each other and Jonathan and Bookman finding her. So that gives me pause. Why did you do that? Was you trying to set this man up? Was you knowing that he was going to call the police and you could be able to weaponize, which Danny said, use the police against this man? Which, again, I find that very dangerous because we know the climate that goes on with black men and the police in the United States. So to be able to weaponize that not only is hurtful and is harmful, but what if something major would have happened to Jonathan, no pun intended. So not just him going to jail off of these felonious charges and all of this stuff. What if something really happened to this man? So that gives me pause. Also, the strong possibility she caused her own injuries, because it was also said by Danny, which she's seen the actual video, that she had blood under her fingernails. Now, we actually seen the picture of Jonathan with scratches on his face, scratches on his arm, and we also know from the testimony that she could have scratched her own self because she had long fingernails. Now, it's another thing. She didn't know that she was injured. Now, again, she said she had adrenaline and all of this stuff. She was drinking also. So the drinking, that caused her to chase Jonathan around 5 or 6 blocks? She kept saying that she was terrified for her life, but yet she chased him around the block. She, sat in the car with him. Like I said on yesterday's video, there's just too many inconsistencies. And what I understand from this video, from the video from yesterday, was that Danny pointed out that Chaudhry kept jumping around, confusing even the jury, the way that she was bouncing around, asking her questions from this timeline to that timeline to this timeline to that timeline. To the fact she even brought up a point where, what about your ex-boyfriend that unelected deleted itself? And she went off like a person on Maury backstage, to confuse this young lady. We found out that her family is a family full of lawyers. Mother, father, I believe, and her sister. So she was already prepped, not only by the DA, but by her family on how to answer these questions. And she was answering them in a roundabout way, according to Danny, who was in the courtroom. And if you know that you're going a roundabout way answering these questions, it was very smart for Chaudhry to literally, like a Pokemon throwing out confusion. And confusing this young lady, getting her flustered, getting her frustrated, getting her angry, upset because she couldn't answer the questions properly, which is a great strategy to show that you're not the type of witness, or you're not, you're unstable to be able to answer these questions. All good information that was thrown out there. You got to see the Dr. Hines video. Make sure you guys check out that video. So much good information. But again, just based on what I read, what did you think about, day 6 from the highlights? Just highlights, the key highlights that happened today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell notification so you can never, ever, ever miss one of my videos again. Until next time, I'll holler at you guys later. Peace and bye-bye, y'all.